All right. Hello, everybody on YouTube.
Hello, YouTubers.
Mary's not here, so I guess I'll say it. This is a live recording, unedited. So if you want the edited version, go to smlr.us.
The Sunday Morning Linux Review with Mary Tomich, Tom Lawrence, and Tony Bemis as the Beaver.
And this is episode 267. Uh, haven't named it yet.
How about the origin of the word daemon?
Damon.
Daemon.
Damon.
Sounds good.
All right. That's one of my articles. I don't know if any of it's true, but it's a good read.
Chamad 666. Damons.
Yes. Matter of fact, if you haven't clicked it in my show notes, guys, open it up and run through it while we're discussing stuff because it's an interesting read and there's two theories, and they're both fun.
All right. All right. Anyway, this is Tony Bemis.
Tom
Phil-
Lawrence,
And Phil Parada.
and you just found out how we do show titles.
That's right.
Our secret's out. We name them just before the show. That's why they have such unusual names.
All right. So Phil, you've been a little busy this last what?
So
It's
what's
been
new
3
with
weeks,
Phil?
huh?
Yeah, my wife and I bought our first house, and we've been living there for a week. We've endured flooding, the bridge wearing away and eroding,
Oh.
replacing a sump pump, replacing a water heater, demoing a bathroom. It's been awesome. Home ownership is fun.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. That's a lot to go. The bridge though is interesting.
Yeah,
How does a bridge just erode away?
it is. It's a dirt road that we live off of, and we had
It's fine.
such great rain and snow melt off that all the dirt's just gone.
And yeah, for those of you that
Wow.
they don't keep up with the Detroit weather patterns, we had, was it 12 inches of snow we got or 10
Mhm.
inches? We had a lot, and then it flooded because it went from sub-zero temperatures to it got up to 63 degrees.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
So
a very
everything
nice
flooded. It was very nice out, except for everything was
day.
underwater. That's all, and that was within 7 days from sub-zero snow to pouring rain, and that was 7 days difference.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of flooding, along with a lot of people in the Midwest, but
Yeah,
especially so, and along with the freeze and the thaw, and then it froze again, and then it thawed, is potholes.
yeah, the
That's
roads are
been
rough here.
Really bad around here.
Mhm. But who wants to do maintenance on infrastructure? Ugh.
Certainly not no one here in the U.S.
Right.
The lowest bidder usually gets to do it, and it doesn't go well. That's-
Yeah.
So that's been exciting for you, for sure.
Yeah. So how about you, Tony?
It's been exciting. I switched my phone over to the Google Fi setup.
Oh,
So
welcome to the club.
yeah, so it's a 6P, so it's not a new phone at all. But it when I had it on Verizon, I couldn't use Wi-Fi calling, and in my day job, I'm in the basement, so I had no cell signal. So I'm like, no, I gotta switch this over. So I switched to Google Fi, and I like it. It's been doing really good.
And right after the last show we recorded, Tony dove in and took that phone apart and put a new battery in it.
That's right.
Successfully put a new battery in. How's that holding up? That's been a
It's
couple weeks.
awesome. Yeah,
That's
I
great.
went from it had the problem with the 6P where the battery would just die when it gets cold. You know, like at 20 or 30% and below, if I walked outside, it would just shut off on me.
How frustrating.
Exactly. So I'd have, not a full charge, but I'd have maybe 60 or 70% of a charge that I could actually use. So I was getting 10 to 13, 14 hours out of it. And with the new battery, I get with the same usage, I get like 30 hours.
Wow,
Yeah. So it's been awesome.
that's great. And it was challenging to look at to do, but it turns out once you figure out where the seams are, Tony
Right.
rocked it right out.
Yeah. So on the 6P, there's you have to pull the glass off behind the camera,
Yeah,
and
and not break
that
it.
glass part. Yeah, the glass part is broken, or it can easily get broken. So I with Tom's heat gun, and I just
Mhm.
easily you carefully peeled that off.
I was there
and-
only to provide tools and moral support. I have not fixed phones either.
Yeah. So it worked really good, and I'm happy with it.
Awesome.
And then one other thing that's going on, just yesterday I found this, that my FreeNAS is degraded. My
Oh
Z pool
no.
is degraded,
Oh,
and so it means one of my drives are going bad, and so I found the command zpool, to find out status,
Yeah.
to find out which one it is, and it gives me a UUID. And then I tried Googling, and I find nothing of how to match up the UUID with the serial number
I
of
can
the
show
hard
you how.
drive.
I can,
Okay.
yeah. I have a degraded drive, and I can show you how to identify them. I thought about doing that as a video because it's not clear unless you've done it. And I've only because I've broke drives because of the high usage we've had over. And in fact, I've been running freelance for so long, we've just seen drives go bad. So
Yeah.
I have one drive that has an error. The smart status is good, but the drive has an error, so the pool wants to resilver the drive, and I'm gonna replace the drive instead of resilver it, because if it has an error, it's probably because the drive has a problem. I'll
Right.
test the drive outside of it and keep it as a spare if it tests good. But yeah, no, we can talk about that because actually I have one here that has a problem.
All right. Well, so what I did in the meantime is, and it's still in the process or almost done, is I'm running SpinRite on all 5 drives. I have
Okay.
5 2 terabyte drives that it's
Perfect.
running across, and so that should be done soon. So
Yeah.
hopefully, if it was an error in like one of the sectors, then it'll bring it back to good, and figure out which one of those hard drives it is. And
There's something about the way ZFS does it because it can have to, if it doesn't resilver it, once it marks that the drive had an error, it like keeps in the log until that drive gets resilvered because it basically has to the drive's fine, like the integrity, because I don't have a degraded array because that drive still works. But it does let me know that one drive had an error, just a CRC error that it corrected. So it shows that in the log until you resilver that drive.
yeah, okay, yeah, because what I've been getting the whole time is like 28 sectors is unrecoverable.
Oh, that's a
And
different error. Okay.
28, well, I get that like a lot, but it's like I'm like 28 sectors.
It's not many.
But for the last 6 months that it's been running, that those errors, and I'm thinking I always thought it was the same 28 sectors that it's giving errors on. Well, it's given that error 23,000 times now.
Oh.
So that's why it's
Okay.
marked as degraded.
Yeah. It says it's had enough of this drive.
Exactly. So that's the fun I'm doing. And now I'm debating, do I spend $800 to replace all my drives and go from 5 hard drives to 8 2 terabyte hard drives, or just replace this one? And well, I'd start with replacing this one to make sure I have a good
Yeah.
setup, and then stick the new drives in and stuff. So I'm really want to do it, but I'm like $800. That's kind of expensive for me, for my house.
Well, yeah, you can get drives for less than that. I can show you some sources because you can get the enterprise HDST drives right now.
Mhm.
With I think they only come with a 1-year warranty because they're refurbished, but I've used them and they're great. You can get 3 terabyte ones. I think that I've bought them for as little as $69
Oh yeah.
for 3 terabytes for each drive. So
Hmm.
2 terabyte ones I've seen go for like $49. There's a couple sources you can buy them from.
Yeah.
They recondition them. I guess I don't know what they do to them, but they.
Well, what I was looking at is getting the 2.5 drives,
Oh,
and
the
then
reds.
get the drive caddies that I
Yes.
could put 4 in a CD-ROM bay.
Yep.
So get 2 sets of that. So then I can have 8 drives.
Yeah, no, those are cool too.
And then I already have a Dell RAID card that has 8
That's
SATA connectors on it.
perfect. Okay.
So then I was just going to use that.
Neat.
But we'll see. Yeah. Anyway, so the drives and the bays was $800 is what I found on
Ah.
Amazon.
Yeah,
So I'm like, oh,
but storage
but-
is so important.
yeah. Especially now that I'm debating, well, now I have this set up. Well, I'm gonna start backing up my parents and my in-laws and my sister and my brother's computers, because nobody ever does backups.
No, they don't. No,
So
we
uh,
know they
if I
come in the
can
door,
convince-
come in the door of a retail store daily.
right. If I can convince them all to give me $100, then I could afford to do this. So that's what I'm gonna try.
Yeah, run your own. And then you can back up your FreeNAS now to Backblaze.
Oh,
That's actually really because they're probably one of the cheapest storage providers out there, and they're integrated along with S3 and a few other companies. But the Backblaze integration is really nice. I've done some testing with FreeNAS. You can sync whatever folder you want in FreeNAS with their storage buckets. It's arbitrarily easy to set up.
Well, I wanted to do something like that, or Glacier or something, that's really cheap
Yep.
and slow. So it's not like
That's how the
really
Backblaze one. It's really and you go. I went through a storage calculator. Even backing up terabytes of stuff is a few dollars a month. They're really
Yeah.
reasonable. You have the hit when you first upload everything, so you have like the initial fees, and if you have to download it, there's a fee. But the day-to-day storage fees rival Glacier with their buckets. So, and they're faster than Glacier.
All right.
So yeah, Backblaze is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Cool.
So how about you, Tom?
So me and Phil did an Ansible tutorial, part 2. That's cool. That's
Ooh. That was a good time.
that was a good time. So that was fun. Editing was rough because we had mistakes. Mistakes were made, but it all came together when we re-edited. We skipped over a little bit, and in the end, we ended up going just keyword commando. We're running it all in production, but it all worked. So
There now, when someone watches over your shoulder when you're typing on a keyboard is one thing, but when you're being filmed by various cameras
yes,
and live coding, oh, that's a whole other nightmare.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're discussing it as we're doing it, and it kind of breaks your flow state of just doing. And that's one of the challenges whenever I'm making tutorial videos. There's always editing. It's why I don't do live streams of any of the stuff I do.
Yeah.
Why did I type that?
for every 4 hours of video, you'll get about maybe 30 usable minutes
Yeah.
that people can watch.
Yeah, how long it does? We have a nice about an hour long tutorial, but yeah, I think we were here for like 2 or 3 hours at least.
Wow. Yeah.
We were here a long time. I know my wife was messaging me, and so is Phil's wife.
Yep.
Make sure we feed Phil. So I'm sure you're working on something and he'll forget to eat.
Not after midnight, though.
Not after Phil, yeah. And directly related, I did a video that's kind of popular. I did some in-depth analysis of Backblaze and their hard drive things. So they do quarterly reports on their drives, and they give you all the data, and you can download it. And it's all the statistics because Backblaze doesn't just use enterprise hard drives; they use consumer hard drives. They use any hard drives to build their storage pods, and they have a lot of documentation. You can go to their blog and follow it, which is nice. They're a data center that is extremely open about all the things they do. And because of that, they created this hard drive thing they've been running for the last 5 years or 6 years. They tell you how many drives are in use, and they have a days of use, and it'll be like 3,000 2 terabyte HGST drives, and they give you this failure stats of them. This is what's crazy. Some of the people were trying to criticize this, going, "Oh no, these enterprise drives, they should be using enterprise or should be using consumer drives and failure rate." So I actually did the analysis. Seagate's enterprise drives failed more often than Western Digital's consumer drives in there. Now, Western Digital's consumer drives failed more often than Western Digital enterprise drives. And HGST, which don't really denote whether they're enterprise or not, they kind of are vague. They just have naming schemes on their drives and are kind of for enterprise, kind of for consumer. They have like they're like 1 point something percent failure rate. They have the lowest failure across all the drives. And they have a large pool of them out there. So Seagate still reigns supreme as the failingest drives ever across enterprise and consumer. The consumer ones are hopeless. The consumer drives they have, someone pointed out that they're not designed for that kind of usage. They didn't seem to be designed for any usage based on what I've seen. So there's that. So that was a fun deep dive into it. I have that in a video, and of course you can get all your own stats and draw your own conclusions from Backblaze themselves because they publish everything, which I love. And as other companies don't really do that. Like Google released some of their analysis of hard drives, but they aggregated the data and don't tell you anything about what drives they are. They just gave you overall failures and things like that. I love that they actually give you right to the exact model number of each drives. So that was fun. Other than that, what else did I do? I don't know, lots more videos. I did a deep dive into KDE Neon. That was a video I published yesterday. So that's become popular because I wanted to get people excited about it. I have some news articles because KDE Neon has become substantially more stable over the last 6 months has been amazing for them. In stability and usability, and it just doesn't crash. Of course, most of my crashing, the only thing it still consistently does, only on my 3 monitor setup, it loses the wallpaper. Always, if it decides it's going to lose the wallpaper, it's going to lose it on the left side, and you can't put it back.
Do you have an open ticket with that yet, or is there one?
I don't know how to describe it. because I can say wallpaper not there, but right click gets disabled too. But then within a day, it always gets fixed. So if an update comes today that updates something related to the underlying plasma, it'll break the wallpaper and the wallpaper will be fixed by tomorrow.
I've had good luck in the past making like a WebM video or just recording with my phone and submitting that to a bug tracker.
Really?
That might
Oh,
be an
really?
never
option.
thought about that.
Yep,
Yeah, I never
because
thought to do it like that.
for
That's
for problems that you can't exactly describe, such as like web performance, but only in some obscure edge case, uh, I found that
that's
it
cool.
helps.
I'll have to try that. I did
Yeah.
have the weirdest thing, and I took a picture with my phone, but a reboot fixed it. So when you log in, it has where you can type your password, and normally that should be obscured as it should be. It wasn't obscuring it, and all I did was reboot, and it obscures it now, but it only ever did it once.
Hmm.
That's scary.
That's weird. I typed, I'm like, I can see this, and that's what I started. As soon as I started typing my password, I'm like, wait a minute. Usually I don't look when I'm typing my password. I'm
I've
glad I
seen
looked.
I've seen a few of the websites that give you the option to turn that on or off. So
Yeah, you can
but
you can do a reveal on some of them. Like they got the little eyeball key next to it, but it's weird to type in a password at your desktop, and then you can start seeing yourself type. So all I did
right.
was I went over and restarted the computer, and it's never done it again. I can't
Hmm.
repeat it, so I didn't file a bug. I was just like, this is weird and scary. And now what do I do? It's like if my computer possessed, I snapped a picture of my phone real quick. And I'm like, let me just restart it.
Just be thankful you're not running Apple.
Ah, yeah. You know what though? They released a security patch. I got a hats off to Microsoft. They really locked down a lot of computers because it broke the USB and you can't have any input on it. So the only solution is to restore it from a previous. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't because you have no USB support. So um, you can use PS2, but God knows we've gotten rid of PS2 years ago. So all these new computers and all these clients all have broken. The good news is if you have for our managed clients, we have remote access to them, so we are able to just use our remote tool to roll off the update. For those that don't, they're all in the. There's like 9 of them over there on the other side of this wall that are all in for service. We
Oh
worked yesterday restoring a bunch of computers.
wow.
We found a hacky way to do it by taking the hard drive out and putting it in another computer and running a tool called DISM. So you have to mount. It's the same way you would like chroot something inside of Linux. You have to do this in Windows to roll back the update. It's ridiculous.
Mm.
I want to give a shout out to the team over at Microsoft that did that. We can pay the building, and we made payroll just yesterday. my love hate people. My love hate with Microsoft. There was another option. I would suggest they use something different, but they don't. And therefore, they're here. Anyways, it's enough babbling on about that. So, all
That
right.
is funny. All right. Well, I guess we're going on to listener feedback.
We want to hear from you. Call 734-258-7009 or email show@smlr.us with your feedback and questions.
So one thing I want to start with is with our feedback is the phone number no longer works. I think we've gotten one voicemail in the last 3 years. So it's been a long time. But when I changed over to Google Fi on my phone, it said I can no longer have my Google phone or my Google number because I wanted
Yeah.
to keep my real cell phone number.
Yeah, I did say I lost my phone number. I wasn't using it. I had it forever, but I didn't have it published anywhere. And then when I switched to Google Fi because I ported my number, they make you lose it, which I think is weird.
Yeah. Well, you get the same services from this other number, but
Yeah.
why can't you have two of them? And then after I said, okay, I don't care. It can go away. I started Googling it, and there's a way you can transfer that number over to a different Google account. I'm like, dang, I should have done that before I
Oh yeah, yeah.
said get rid of it. Oh well. Anyway, so we have a couple emails that came through. One was directly to Phil.
Yes, that was regarding episode 264 and the SMLR podcast stats script that I wrote. Dave Morris sent us a better tool to use instead of the Internet Archive tool that I had found. He gave me some tips, and he said he's been doing the same kind of thing with his show. So thank you, Dave.
Have we I know you've been busy. Have you had time to look at it all, or?
I have looked at his code. I've looked at the code that he sent in the email. I have yet to implement it into our script, but this does give me an idea that we should have a cron that runs the script after every week, so we can get our own stats emailed to us instead of relying on Blueberry stats, which
Okay.
are to me kind of useless because it only shows the previous week.
I mean, there's ways we can log in and get current stats,
That's true, but
yeah,
it's very easy for me sitting down in the bathroom to check my email and see stats in a picture.
Yeah.
cool.
No, in this is something that's kind of annoying. So I talked to another guy he's doing some internet radio stuff, and same problem. It's really hard to get stats because he's seeing all these aggregators that seem to pull his data down, and then I'm realizing that they distribute it. That's what they do. They distribute to another app. So the same thing with this Pocket Catcher, and I haven't had time to do this, but like Pocket Catcher or some of the other ones, I don't think they download from our server. I think they download once from our server and then have their own essentially content delivery system. I use Pocket Cast specifically, but Pocket Cast doesn't seem, because every show pulls at the same speed when I download it. I don't think it's pulling individually from each server.
So this reminds me of an old TV show, podcasting, where the numbers don't matter and the stats are made up.
Yep. Pretty much. It's really hard to figure out your audience on there. We just want to know who you are. When you send us feedback, we know who you are.
Right.
Speaking of positive feedback, Brian Heading sent us a couple emails showing his support. So thank you very much, Brian.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, that show that Dave Morris, he said he helps with the HPR, the Hacker Public Radio.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's that's where we got our real big first start is for SMLR back in the day. Is they ran our first like 5 or 6 episodes and really pulled in a lot of listeners. So that was really nice.
Another email listener feedback that we had too is, or did you have more to say on that one? Or all right, is about Unify video server on 1604 base. I answered this question because we set up a lot of Unify camera systems, and they're talking about a Unify camera system, and generally it runs on top of Linux. It'll run on Windows, but it's more popular to run it on a headless Linux server. I helped them with some of the answers that they had, and they did ask my preference for it, and I referred back to my video. I almost always build them on top of a Debian box out of habit. Debian's nice, lightweight. It's been a long time since I've used a Ubuntu server. I don't know how you feel about it, Phil. I've always thought just Debian was cleaner with less things.
I feel the same way. If I'm going to be running a personal OS, I'm going to be running Ubuntu. But if it's going to be some sort of production server, it'll be Debian for sure.
Yeah, I've always I remember my super aggravation I had with that. Maybe I'm sure I've changed it because we're talking like 5 years ago, and this is me being back in the day they did this. But one of the problems is like with Apache, they had a lot of little quirks they had set custom, and I had problems with it. And everyone's solution was, go to a Debian server and just copy the config file over because it's all set up right. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Why would they mess with the config and have a couple options that were non-default settings in general other OSs? So I've always just stuck with Debian as the base. But yeah, and especially when you're running like the Unify stuff, if you're not familiar with the way their stuff works, it all runs in a Java VM. So because it runs in a Java VM, you don't need to load Apache or anything. You literally have to load the most minimal OS with SSH on it. It's all I put in it. That's it. Then you load the Java VM, and then the rest of it is their script that takes care of it. So, but I hooked them out with some of the settings on there. I hope they didn't reply, but I think it works now.
We also got thanks and a shout out to Mary from this listener.
Yes, Mary is a comedic genius. She does not script ahead of time. She's just smart and witty.
Yes.
We love her witty banter. She's good with the puns too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's really all I saw.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we have in here.
All right. So I guess we're going on to Distro Fever.
Distro Fever, where we cover the latest hot distro releases and news.
And so the latest hot distros.
Latest hot distros.
So I see we'll calculate Linux at a release, which is Gen 2 base. Did you see Devon?
Yes, I did. for those system D haters out there, Devuan uses sysv init,
Yeah.
and they have rejected the reality that system D is going to take over the world.
What's your reality on that?
Well, it's here,
You know how to
and
use it and-
developers don't have to write shell scripts anymore, but then you have to struggle with all of these system D-isms.
Mhm.
I can see, I think that it provides a lot of benefits. I can write a shell script myself, but I can't give a system to somebody who doesn't know that language and ask them to just run their service. Because then you'll come back with some sort of hacky nightmare of a service starter.
That's what Tom does. That's why I don't mind it. 'Cause
Oh, dear
Right.
Tom, we should spend some time cleaning up your systems.
Yeah. Well,
I had to write one the other day for my iPerf server, iPerf C3, so I could test my my Wi-Fi bandwidth speeds.
Cool.
So I wrote a little, script to run on a Ubuntu server, and it seems to work.
well, I just have a start server. The only one I had to write in the most recent times would be for my Zen server. By default, in the GUI itself, Zen does not support with unless you buy their enterprise paid version.
This is
auto-starting
Citrix
VMs.
Zen server.
Citrix Zen server, yes. They do not support auto starting VMs on boot.
Mhm.
Good news, it's easy to do. You just throw a script in the RC series and it works. So
Right.
I haven't had to write everything else I run is pretty normal stuff. Apache it starts anyways, and SQL it starts anyways. So what else do we have here? Updated Kali Linux. I haven't played with Kali in a while since moving over to Parrot. Kali seems to be because I think last show we talked about the new Parrot version being out. Now we're talking about Kali. Parrot seems to be more faster development, maybe more updated stuff. So I haven't played with it a lot. I've been busy. I really want to. I want to do more
Yeah.
testing with it. I have too many hobbies and projects, and
Right. Yeah, I haven't been able to look at Parrot, but everything I've heard about Kali is, and I've used it too, uh, is that a lot of the uh, programs are really hard to set up.
and Parrot took
And-
that's what Parrot's advantages. They've already taken the time to set it up, as I understand.
Well, that's what Kali, like I said, Kali is. They've gone through and done a lot of the base setups of those also. So I don't know. They're probably at par.
I
but
love competition.
Yeah. Did you see Zevnet?
That's neat.
Zevnet?
I never even heard of it before.
Yeah, it's the first time I saw it on here. It's pretty interesting. It's a load balancer server, application server, based on Debian. So I guess it's kind of like, well, it says it does HTTP, HTTPS,
You know,
load balancing.
I don't know where the world is at with this, but anytime I need something big enough to load a load balancer, it's usually end up loading it in one of the cloud services, Azure, AWS, or Google, where they just kind of magically make it happen.
Yeah.
So I
Well-
mean, it's cool because I do like running things myself. We're huge on a lot of the self-hosted things, but if I have an enterprise application that's so big it needs a load balancer because it's got so many users, it's usually not running inside my stack where I want to run it.
I wonder what the features of this are compared to HA proxy or using something like Nginx as your load balancer.
Right.
That would be an interesting test. to
Those
see.
have a
I
lot
wonder
of
what the load balancer is in the background. Oh, it says new LSBL or LSLB module,
So is
which is the local service load balancer.
interesting though.
But
it looks pretty. That's
It-
for sure.
one thing that we're talking about setting up at my work is a load balancer for our syslogs, because we have almost 2,000 devices sending to one server syslogs, and so
What
Right.
could go wrong?
well, they were like, our server is so slow. And then somebody else says, you really should spin up like 3 or 4 syslog servers and have a load balancer in front of them to throw it between them. And then it can all forward it over the one connection or, set of connections that go to our database server at that point.
I've built something on a smaller scale using Logstash and FluentD, log transporting mechanisms that forward to an aggregator server.
Yeah.
That might be an option.
Yeah, that'd be good. So yeah, I mean, we have F5s at work, so we probably just throw it behind that. But it'd be interesting to figure out something like this to see if we could use it. Or, I mean, I was really thinking of HA proxy, but yeah,
It's cool to have such a nice interface. When I think of load balancers, I think of command line level configuring of them, never an interface on top of them.
yeah. So
Same here.
Zevanet has a
That's pretty neat.
web based front end. Yeah.
And it's an ISO and all that fun stuff, so you can just spin it right up.
Did
I
you
think-
guys happen to see the 3CX phone system? It's a IP PBX.
Yes, we're actually.
Mm.
I'm setting up demos of it. We're looking at spinning up a phone company this year, so that's on my to-do list. So I launched. I mentioned before we launched the LTS Creative Company, but the kind of complete IT service. The only thing we don't take care of for clients is phones. We have a lot of demand for it.
Hmm.
So I'm really looking at opening a phone company this year.
That'd be interesting.
Tom Bell.
Like Ma Bell, but Tom
Yeah,
Bell.
3CX is one of the platforms we looked at. We're looking. There's two different companies that compete with each other. 3CX is one. The other one is called Sangora or something like that, which is based on Asterix. 3CX is a different stack, but the 3CX one has better apps like for phones, like the Android and that. That's something the other people, the Asterix community has a really strong support and a really solid product, but they're missing
Oh.
that, and people really like it.
I didn't understand what the other system you're talking about. I
Mhm.
think most people pronounce it asterisk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Asterix.
what I was thinking too, Tony.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's wrapped up in a company called Sangora, just repackages. It's got a different name, but I
Yeah.
know the base of it originally is a lot of that. So
Yeah.
anyway, there's some neat stuff out there, and you can stand these up inside of cloud servers. Was pretty much the only way you can do it because the volume of traffic you're going to get. Building your own data center, not practical.
Right.
I wouldn't
And-
mind. It'd be fun if someone wants to fund me for it. We'll build one at Phil's on Phil's farm. The server farm on Phil's farm.
You know there is plenty of space to do that.
Yes.
I've changed the SSID from Catsylvania to the server farm.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
You can have chickens and servers there.
The data roams wild.
All you need to do is get some dark fiber out to your place, and you'd be all set.
Yes.
That
A
would be
solar
nice.
array.
I would buy a tractor to dig up that last mile.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the projects we're doing at work right now. We're doing dark fiber between all the hospitals, 10 gig, dual 10 gig between all the hospitals.
Nice.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Sweet.
Anyway,
Anyways, back on. I think we have worn out the distro watch.
all right. Then we're going on to the news.
Tech news and views.
So Tom, you've got quite a few.
I got some news to talk about. All right. Apparently, you can run Linux on the Nintendo Switch. This was fun. They found cracks in the security on it, and they were able to convert the the Nintendo Switch gaming device to run Linux, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know what what they're going to do with it, but they have a whole how-to from a person called Fail Overflow. I believe they do some videos on a bunch of hacking stuff, but this was clever that they took the time to take the Switch apart, and that's always the beginning of making it do things better than it can do originally. So I just thought that was kind of cool because I had a hacked. I really loved my hacked Wii. Once they figured out how to hack Wii, it was wonderful. It made it a better product.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
I need to do that on mine.
I've got a 1 terabyte hard drive hooked up to ours, and I can play all my old video games on the new system.
Yes. I mean, once I hacked it, it's like I loaded the emulator, and then we loaded. It was really cool. So instead of having to put the disc in, you pop the disc in, and it copied it to the external hard drives. So that was one of the features that we added to it, and it was great because you just copy all the stuff there. Now I can just go through a menu that had a homebrew menu, and you could just load whatever game without having to get up off the couch ever.
Oh, that's cool.
So we use, of course, the idea that we was use the motion controller so you wouldn't just sit on the couch, but still,
Right.
we always end up sitting on the couch.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of want to plug my Wii in. It's all sitting in a box right now.
That
I
might
don't
get me
really
using
do-
my Wii again. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if my new TV. I don't think my TV doesn't have the right inputs for it. 'Cause it doesn't. The original Wii doesn't have HDMI. It's got the
Right.
analog, and everything I have is new and it's only HDMI. So I'd have to get some
Oh.
stupid converter.
It doesn't do component? I thought it
It
did.
does, and I don't have component. Everything's
Oh.
HDMI.
Oh, right.
Right. So as I'm saying, I have a nice.
Oh, it's because
new-
you go through your stereo, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have a whole Pioneer THX stereo system. That's all the everything's super high end. So they just don't bother like component. Haha, peasants. Just because you paid $1,000 for a receiver doesn't mean it gets component.
Right.
Who would use that? Because I guess you have money to spend on a receiver, I can probably afford a stupid adapter.
Yeah, it's like your $3,000 camera can't be used as a live streaming.
Yeah,
so
we
you
were
have
talking
to
about
buy
that. You got
another
to buy an
$300
adapter. You pay $4,000 for a camera. You don't even get lenses with it, and you got to buy an adapter to live stream with it. Thanks, Canon.
Right.
Anyways, but that's cool. They hacked it, so that's the headline there. And of course, Linux, and it's 4 cores, so we got 4 penguins on the screenshot here.
So what's the advantage of doing this on the Switch? I mean, what's the hardware advantage over other tablets?
It's less about the hardware advantage. It's the way that Nintendo does all the game locking on the devices. So undoubtedly, it's going to lead to being able to easily load different games on it because it's a good hardware platform to play games.
Is there a hardware unlock to play the games?
They're probably, I'm sure they'll get there. Once you,
Because I mean, you're not loading the Nintendo OS anymore. Now you're loading Linux.
well, that's how what the Wii did was it created a bootloader in front of that runs off an SD card in front of the Wii load itself. And I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to lead to. So when you boot it up, you first go into that menu, and then you can say, I want to run my old emulator games or play it for other devices. And then you can say, no, I want to go ahead and boot into the regular Wii menu. But it created a loop device on the Wii that allowed you to point to the hard drive instead of the CD-ROM.
Really, this is going to allow us to play Doom 1 on the Switch as opposed to Bethesda's Doom.
Right.
Which running Doom is my main goal on any piece of technology.
Yes. You've seen the HP printer running Doom, right?
Oh, yes, I have.
Yes, that is wonderful. Quick side note, they added multiplayer gaming, multiplayer really good to the new Doom. I've now found the game that I can spend forever playing. So I'm back to my roots. First person shooter. I'm so bad. That's a whole nother topic. Anyways, so in the topic of net neutrality, jump into another subject here. This is clever lawsuit. 23 state attorney generals refile lawsuit challenging net neutrality repeal. This is a weird end run, and we started talking about this where we say to here for the show. Essentially, by them declaring that the repealing net neutrality rules, and they also said, but the states can't come up with rules. Well, federal law will supersede state law in the U.S. Kind of the end run around rules was you just repealed the federal law, so we're not competing with the federal law anymore because it doesn't exist. So this now creates kind of a nightmare, though, scenario for the people that wanted net neutrality repealed. AT&T, Comcast, and the big cable companies, because now they could be facing a big mess of rules and regulations on a per state basis. So now they got this big headache hodgepodge together going, all right, if we service internet in California, it's this rule. In New York, it's this rule. And it's going to be more difficult for them. So it actually didn't win. And it may lead to a reinstatement of proper rules. And I know it went over to the FTC, but apparently there's some way it doesn't work in all legal speak. I'll leave a link to the article, so I'm not a scholar when it comes to the legal side of it. I just like the angle they found to hopefully defeat this and get this mess sorted out on there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we had a little bit of discussion about this before the show started, and there's a lot of angles at this. Is when you pull the federal out and you're worried about local or state laws at this point. There's a lot of different angles and theories about how it can move about.
Yeah, it's really messy. We need a consolidated way. We need a decent rules and regulations to properly do things. I'm not someone who's all for regulating things for someone gets mad that's listening going, no, keep the government out. It's not about that. It's about just proper regulations. We have rules. We can't just go around killing each other or destroying the internet. So as long as everyone plays by a common set of rules, there's competition, I think it's healthy and it's good. So
I agree.
Yeah, it's just right now we kind of have a mess. So, and we have Ajit Pai. He's yeah, that guy. Anyways, on to some more positive news. That's much better. So welcome Daniel Schumann to the Valve open source open source graphics groups.
That's what I like to hear.
Yes. Now, this is interesting because what I believe the projects Daniel Schumann has worked on in the past is some of the Mesa drivers and things like that. So him joining Valve, okay, I'm reading a lot into a Twitter tweet, but I have a feeling because he's working on some of the open stuff and the Mesa drivers and added to the Mesa list, we're going to see better support for games. That's what this is all leading towards in the Linux side from our friends at Valve. So if you hired a guy that worked in open source and worked on Mesa, I have a feeling it's really what he's going to be doing when he goes there too. They're like, hold on, let me give you the Windows DirectX. Let me just make you hate life a little bit. I don't think that's how that's going to go. So this is just a tweet by them. So I'm excited about it. Valve's doing some stuff. So he's a Valve coder now, and that's the projects he's worked on. So that's exciting. Hopefully more Linux games, because this is the year of the Linux gaming desktop.
Absolutely.
We're the 0.1% there, 0.01.
I've
We're
been,
1% of the desktop, but we're like the 0.01% of the gaming desktops.
I've been going strong on this particular laptop for a year and a half, playing all my games on Linux, and haven't looked back yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of great games on Linux now. They're actually, are you familiar with Red Alert? Remember that game from years ago?
Absolutely.
Have you looked at OpenRA?
OpenRA is tons of fun. You can also play Dune 2000, I believe,
Yes.
and various other Command and Conquer games, the good ones, the Westwood ones.
Yeah. I'm looking, I just found OpenRA and I'm like, that looks like a lot of fun. Cass has been looking for a game to play with me. And that one seems like it's cross-platform. She runs Windows on hers, I run Linux on mine. So I'm thinking,
The computers are very hard to beat. Now, I thought that I was just bad as a kid, but no, the AI in those games
is really good.
They're really good.
I should have threw that in here, and it's openra.net. In case anyone wants to play it, it's definitely a lot of. It looks like a lot of fun. Phil can vouch for it being fun. So, and the AI is tough, so you're in for a treat.
If you would like to face any of us, please send us an email at show@smlr.us.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get an OpenRA team going global.
All right.
I'm all for it. I'll spin up a server. They have a dedicated server option for it.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I've got. I have a server rack. I have space. I have a lab. I can make this all happen. This is kind of cool. This started out as the Pineapple Fund. If you're not familiar with it, they donate to a lot of projects, open source projects. And someone keeps an eye on their Bitcoin transfers and made a premature announcement, which I thought was funny. I'm linking to the actual announcement, but apparently the Pineapple Fund had donated $100,000 to KDE. Pineapple Fund said, "You're incorrect. We donated $200,000." The other Bitcoin transaction now is the other foot has dropped. So there's an announcement we hear. KDE receives $200,000 U.S. donation from the Pineapple Fund. And this is awesome because KDE, I am all in. So I switched about a year ago, and that's why I did my 1 year follow-up video, which is the one I posted about like a deep dive into using KDE Neon. I love all the KDE apps. I mean, Kdenlive, my YouTube channel, it exists using Kdenlive. All the editing, it's become so stable, so fast, so much better than it was. Like I was riding the struggle bus hard before. Like I really want to be an open source guy, but like I'm crying when I'm done with the video going, you know how hard this was to edit? Like it crashed 17 times. Control S. It's like a game I'm playing. Like got a hotkey going. But it's become substantially more stable. And the same with KDE. There used to be little quirks where I used to say, your desktop has restarted. Great. I don't even know why. I wasn't even doing anything. And now it doesn't do that anymore. It just works without any crash issues or things like that. Even the widgets work really, really smooth. So them having already a good base and then another 200,000 has me thrilled.
Speaking of Pineapple Fund, there is a user on Reddit /u/Pineapple Fund. This user will occasionally post the other organizations that they're donating money to.
Yes.
And also riffing off of that, they donated $250,000 to Let's Encrypt about 10 days ago. So thank you very much.
If you go to the pineapplefund.org website, it shows a bunch of the different charities that they support. $1 million to the EFF. What was it? $1 million to the Apache.
Yeah,
all sorts of yeah.
I'd
never heard of the Pineapple Fund before. This is interesting.
They probably got into it when it was like fractions of a penny.
And
then they didn't lose their wallet.
They didn't misplace their wallets. They didn't get crypto
So is that
minered or
they're they're mining Bitcoin, or that's what they started with, and then now
I'm
they're giving it.
this is just what I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm unclear on their origin. I didn't read their origin story, but they have a list of money. Matter of fact, the projects they donate to are really cool projects. So if you just go to the Pineapple Fund and look at all the different things that they do, anything that I've seen them give money to is a neat project that you may want to get involved in, may want to help in some ways. They even did some recycling programs, some tech programs that help train people. They're just like, wow, where these people come from? Like, where you guys been? You just donate money. And I like when they donate money to open source projects. Like, this is a good project where to donate money as opposed to trying to let's buy them and give them strong hugs and take over and manage them. That's they seem to be just using, here's some money, guys. You do cool stuff. Let's throw money at you so you can do more of it. I think that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
So
50,000 to OpenBSD,
I
2 million to Internet Archive.
so the folks over at Zen Orchestra, I've talked about this a couple times. They're reviving the Zen project minus Citrix because Citrix decided to do dumb things and not listen to the community.
That's
So
a nice way of putting it.
then, yeah, nice way of putting it. Well, you know what they just did? They just added something else I was going to rant about. I had to correct in my videos that you can download the Citrix Zen server for free. You still can, but they now want your email address again. In the 6 series, you had to give them your email address to get the download link. And the 7.0.1.2, you didn't. Now for 7.3, now there's still no license key you have to do or anything, but you have to give me your email address for a download link. So I'm going to do a video. I'm going to create a dummy email address and log in and say, everyone, so you don't have to give them to, I did it for you, and here it is. I'm going to post it in a video and see what Zen says. I'm going to tweet it and tag them in it just to give my finger to them on the internet. I'm sorry. I'm like, why did you guys do this? Why would you make someone register to get a download link? Here's the download link. Here's a dummy email address and password I want everyone to use. Don't change it because then you'll lock everybody else out. But I'll reset it because I own the email address it goes to because I'm that guy. Anyways, back on topic. Related to in the KDE announcements is super stable 30% faster boot time with Plasma 5.12. So they updated Plasma and the whole KDE Neon is on the latest one. Now I have a bit of confusion here. If I go to About on my system, it says Ubuntu 5.12, not KDE Neon 5.12. I don't know if I should file a bug report for this because their own screenshots say KDE Neon 5.12. My screenshots on both of my computers after I ran the update say Ubuntu 5.12 in the actual About page, and it's a graphic, so it's not like it's a text error, it's a graphic. I don't understand.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to see it because I updated again this morning. I'll see if it still says it. It does. It says Ubuntu 5.12.
I can confirm.
All right.
I'm looking at Tom's screen.
Yes, it's a graphic. I don't know why. So it's still called KDE Neon. It says KDE Plasma, KDE Framework. Everything still says KDE except for the title. And I don't know why. Okay. Yeah, that's just a side note. It still seems to be KDE Neon. You still download it from KDE Neon. It just happens to say Ubuntu, but it is faster. My laptop runs just wonderfully smooth with it. And so is my desktop. But my desktop's really fast. My laptop's a low-powered i5, so I'm impressed that it runs fast on this. ZFS on Linux 0.07.6 release. It's compatible with kernel 4.15. I didn't know this, though. If you're running an SSD, apparently trim support's not as fully implemented in ZFS on Linux. So there's something about that. I'm not the clearest on exactly how it's implemented differently, so I can't answer that. I just know that there are upset people that in the places when it's going to get the support that it has on FreeBSD. So apparently it's implemented and you have all the amazing ZFS features except for a couple. That's the only one that people seem to be caring about a lot. So we're getting there. And here's another question. Will this hasten the death of FreeBSD? We talked about that before. The biggest reason we have the expanded ability for networking in FreeBSD because it's supported in their kernel better than it is in Linux, and the ZFS support. That's because FreeNAS, I mean, they run on the FreeBSD kernel, but it's mostly because of the ZFS support is full. So will they switch their core to a Linux base if
Speaking of the BSDs, they very recently merged in their Spectre and Meltdown
Yes, they did.
mitigations. So
Yes.
I saw that, and that was good to see.
Yep, they merged it in, and now they have it in their daily snapshots of PF Sense, but do not have it in the production ones yet. But it's in for testing. They're seeing how much of a problem it creates with speed. A side note, in people that are probably wondering about this, because of the methodology of attack is a shared code attack, no foreign code runs on a PF Sense box. Therefore, mitigation is not a big deal. Like it's good. You should get it fixed. But right now, nothing third party runs on there that's not code from them. So there's not a way to attack it because it's not an external attack. It's a local. You have to run side by side code on it. So they didn't do it. The same. FreeNAS people have the same exact answer, with the exception of running VMs inside of it. They said don't do that, but their production TrueNAS stuff doesn't support VMs anyways. So because you could do a shared memory exploit on a VM with FreeNAS, so because it's not patched. They haven't released. I don't know when their release date is for it. They got the same thing. They said it's in the pipe now, but no release date. They iterate slower too because it's a lot of work. I don't know. Merging the code like that. Ubuntu adds a minimal installer option to the 1804. Now, I kind of thought this was neat because they load everything, and I don't want everything on it. If you want to load a base desktop, and this is something I liked about KD Neon, you load a base desktop, we get it in there. I then can say, I want this or I want that. And I have a list of things that I load, and I'm sure you do too. Ubuntu, let's just load it all because we think people need all this stuff. And actually, I apt-get remove a lot of things that I'm like, I don't want this in my application list. I'll never use this tool. So they have an option for that now, where it just installs a desktop and say you're on your own. Apt-get each extra thing you want for your desktop. So I like that.
That is cool. But at the same point, you could just run Debian.
You could just
Right.
run. Well, I got it for a desktop.
Yeah,
For a
good
desktop
point.
environment.
What about Ubuntu server? That's kind of like just bare bones, and then you just add on what you want. So you just add X.
Yeah.
And add
Yeah, it's kind of the same way, but
but
for the desktop
desktop,
one,
I
for the
agree.
desktop environment. I think for when I tell people you want to get started with Linux, Ubuntu is probably your best one to get started. It's a solid, albeit a little bit boring operating system. It's not as much eye candy as you get with KD Neon, but it does work, and it comes with a good suite of applications by default. And for those advanced people that go, I'd rather have hard drive space instead of applications I'll never use, check the box and reload it. In command line world, new version of HTOP is out with a few new features. So I think that's pretty cool.
I'm looking at their screenshots. What are the new features?
It's the way it handles the expanded nesting, which I don't know if you've ever used it. When you press the C key and you look at the threads, it indexes them better, and they have a better understanding of how they're done. It's actually a really nice feature on here because it gives you a really nice from the command line GUI, so you can track down. One of the problems when you're running a Java VM with, let's talk about Unify, because that's something we actually have a bunch of servers out there running. Everything just, when you're looking at, you just see the Java VM. This actually is a tool we use to help dig into which one of the VMs is causing a problem if we're trying to troubleshoot something, because there's so many sub-processes that get forked into more of them. I like the tiered way I can track things down to track which module if I have to file any bug reports with Unify.
That is super helpful if you don't have, like, let's say, JMX monitoring going on.
Right. It's just quick HTOP, boom, drill down, because you can use the arrow keys and I can go to it, look at the process, see the memory that process is using and the status of that process, and just be done. And it just looks pretty. I run HTOP all the time. Matter of fact, one of the things I like is in KD Neon, HTOP's already built in. When you launch it, it launches from the GUI the command line version and runs it in a window for you so you can see what's going on. So that's always pretty cool. But yeah, I like that it's still being actively developed. And by the way, they also included it now default with FreeNAS. It has HTOP in, which is definitely awesome. I'm hoping they do the same with PF Sense. And I think back to the bottom of it, new version of Nextcloud is available. Nextcloud's been seeing a lot of development. It's impressive. Right? It looks like really nice. I know there's still the war between them and OwnCloud, but the video improvement, text chat, end-to-end encryption, and lots more performance. People said it's quite a bit faster. Just set it up for a client on a FreeNAS box. It was arbitrary easy. Yeah, it's easier than it's ever been. I haven't set it up on a FreeNAS box in a while. You just load the module and say yes, and there you go.
Yeah, it's really cool. I use it all the
Yeah,
time.
so you
I
use it,
love
don't you?
Yeah. It just works. I run it in the background. I had it running on the same OS for 4 years now, and then I just did the upgrade, and I did a dist upgrade, and it rebooted, and everything worked fine. So I
That-
went
That's good coding.
from 1404 to 1604, and then in 2 months, or when 1804 comes out, then I'll move to that, and it's just been, it's solid. It
I
works good.
They've added a lot of full audit and logging, encrypted on a per folder level, and does not require the user to remember or exchange any passwords. Like they have a lot of nice features in here. I really thought about running it. We for business purposes, and it mostly comes down to the phone apps. And I've heard their phone apps have gotten better. We still run G Suite for my company. It's just they handle our email. We get the free document management in there, and our documents, if someone hacked them, are not that private. They're like bids or quotes we put together. They're nothing. You would have some insight into stuff that we share with clients, anyways. But the real time collaboration. Matter of fact, as we speak, we are all sharing the same document in G Suite.
Yes, we are.
For the news because it's so smooth and just works. And all this just gets public on the internet, so it's not a security risk, anyways.
Yep.
But you
That's
you
right.
would get more of Phil's comments if you looked at this one. Which I should just share the link to this. I don't care if they have all of our comments.
That'd be pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's also really useful. If I go out and browse the internet for a moment and come back and I can see that everybody's looking at this link.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely pretty cool. So, but I mean, Nextcloud, I'm still a huge fans of things being self-hosted, and this is one of those things that you can host yourself and have your own really nice cloud server. So I think it's great. All right, that's it. I think Phil's got a few news items.
Yes, I do. While not quite Linux related, this does fall within the realm of technology. The EFF director, Shahid Buttar, is running for Congress against Nancy Pelosi. It's going to be interesting getting more technologists into politics.
He didn't win. Linus Torvalds' dad was running for a position as well. I've seen that. In
Oh,
the news.
interesting.
Really?
Yeah, it's just semi-related. I don't think he won, but I thought that was cool. He's apparently been involved in politics over there. His dad is. No, I think I want to see more geeks in Congress. I've always loved Neil deGrasse Tyson when he's rambled on about how we have nothing but lawyers and legal people working in there, which is why we have such a mess of litigiousness versus science or techie people in there. So
How can we automate away politicians? We'll
dude,
figure it out.
I am all for it. We've talked about a little bit at the beginning of the show, like if we can replace
AI.
them with AI systems.
Yeah, AI can do it.
Can we?
Have you seen?
Will the AI choose to kill us? Do we have a Terminator scenario?
Have you seen Altered Carbon?
Yes.
The AI
Oh.
runs the
Of the hotel. and-
hotel.
yes.
Yeah, that's funny.
Have you watched EFL?
I have not.
It's really
Please
good.
do.
My interest is piqued.
It is an outstanding show, very, very thought provoking. We won't get too far off topic on it. Me and Marvin, we have this off topic Tuesday thing we do on YouTube, and we dedicated an hour-long show just to Ultra Carbon. It's very popular. 'Cause we both binge watched it and then discussed the show because it really makes you think. It's a lot of in-depth thought on the future of humanity related to technology.
Yeah.
And the eye candy that is that show, shot in
Yeah.
just absolutely gorgeous, like they spared no expense. The production value is very, very high.
It's a Netflix original.
Yes, based on a
Uh,
book.
So not being, cable or TV based, then they're not constrained to
Nope.
to that restrictions. And it's based on the book, and they do a really good job of. I haven't read the book,
Mhm.
but they do a really good job of. The world is created, so it's science fiction. This world is created, and they stay within that. They don't jump
Yes.
out of it, and so everything is explained by what you already know about the world, and it's
Ah.
really interesting.
Yes, it's a fascinating concept, and the differences, and that's something me and Marvin actually did cover, the difference between a book and there. It's one of those times where, especially with the reading the director's notes, everything he changed about the show made it better than the book.
Interesting.
So yeah,
From what I know about the writing process, world building is a very hard skill. So that's
It is.
impressive.
Yeah,
it is, and I'd say a lot of people, I've had Marvin's a writer who works for me, and he's actually went to school for this and still does training classes. We've discussed a lot of this of how some things just don't come through as well because you have to actually physically build a set to create a movie. So I can just write something that your imagination will fill in the blanks. A CGI designer has to design and fill the blanks. So there's like the CGI is going, no, well, your budget's not enough for this. We can't create flying digital cows. Just let people visualize them. Just so. Anyways, before you get too far off topic on it, highly recommend watching it. Warning for anyone that's Googling it right now, lots of sex and violence, nudity, all those things. So it's definitely R-rated. Don't turn it on with the kids thinking you're going to watch a sci-fi flick. It's violent, it's rough, it's full of nudity and sex and torture and everything. So it's got and a great sci-fi spin. So it's and with Netflix they don't have to do a ratings. So
Exactly.
all right, where were we again? Agile Bits.
Moving on. Agile Bits, the creator of OnePass. I've titled this One Password Password Pwnage. Now, that sounds a lot worse than this actually is. This is actually super, super cool. Utilizing Troy Hunt's HaveIBeenPwned.com, Agile Bits has released an update to their service that you can check if the passwords that you store in OnePass have been pwned.
I like that. Now, are they doing it with a hash? I
Yes,
assume?
they are.
Good. All right. That
So
makes you feel better.
they're not sending your actual password to Troy Hunt so
Yeah, I
that
was
he
wondering
can
about
verify
that.
that you've been pwned.
Mm.
They're taking a SHA-1 hash and sending the first 5 characters, and then those characters are enough to determine if your password's been owned or not. And
I
then
like that.
right inside of the web browser, you can just click a button next to a password, and it returns yes or no, basically. Now, there is a bit of lag if you use the phone application. I know that I haven't seen that inside of there, or the desktop application. So maybe that's to come. We'll have to see. I know that the web version is the most kept up to date.
So this is interesting because they also have on Have I Been Pwned the /passwords, and you can just type a password in and see if it's in their indexing. So I'm sure they're using that, and I'm trying it for the first time. Oh no, my password's been used 46 times that I deprecated that I used to use in the 90s. I still remember it. It was not high enough entropy. That's why it's so easy to remember.
Hunter 2.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, I use fun characters. I mean, come on, it's D0G is the first part. I mean, who would have thought to use an O instead of that? 90s Tom thought no one would.
You don't happen to be one of those hackers that we hear about, do you?
No, you substitute the I's and yeah. I'll actually say the password because I haven't used it in 20 years. It was Dogfish Head with some characters. I used to like that phrase because
they make tasty beer.
So this is my password for my 1990 gaming server was Dogfish Head back in like 95 or 96, my first server. But relay that is when they had the beer, I'm like, the beer is named after my password. This is wonderful. So anyways, so that password's been pwned, but I'm not typing any of my current ones, but I typed in a variation of my current one and it's not pwned. So that's interesting.
Oh, if you So, one of the most popular passwords is love, right?
Yeah.
But if you use a 0 instead, it goes from like 63,000 times used down to only 63 times.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's nice. And of course, if you don't want to put your password into their system, you actually can, and it's updated as of February 22nd, 2018. You can download the torrent with all the SHA-1 hashes in there and just do your own comparison. That way you're never submitting data outside your password. So they actually have that as an option on there. I've always thought that was cool. If you he supports as he updates this, Troy Hunt gives you all the passwords and everything that he's collected for it. Therefore, you can do your own security research, analysis, password, fun toy things, and he probably would welcome the help. So I'm sure he's a busy guy.
Right.
It's a lot of passwords to manage. So there's some Node.js drama.
Yes, there was. specifically with NPM, the Node Package Manager. The 5.7 release, which is technically it's a pre-release, but you can still very easily upgrade to it. It had some UID and GUID wonkery for your user ID and your group ID. Now, what would happen is if you run sudo npm as a non-root user, such as if you just wanted to update your system or you're a developer on your laptop, file system permissions for /var/user/bin were being changed by chown, which runs inside of the npm. And then you would have to reload your system because it would break things. And you can't just go back and chown everything to root because you would cause even more problems.
Oh.
So that was a nightmare. There was some very toxic comments going on in the GitHub issue for that. So the community needs some work.
I've seen that in apparently there was some posts deleted, and I don't care enough to follow up on the drama, but in Reddit on the FreeBSD group, apparently it broke down to childishness, and someone's like, okay, all those are deleted now. Some of the admins, I just seen the admin post about it. I've seen this happen before, and I'm going to call out the folks from pfSense, the main developer there. Smart guy, I've talked to him, but boy, he doesn't mind calling names and going into that. That's certainly not beneath him, as he's proven many times now. It's not a one-time occurrence either. Every time someone says something, he can quickly devolve into childish behavior. This is a problem, I think, in our development community. We need to, people point at Linus and we're like, no, this is not why we like Linus. We know he rants about things. This is not why we like him. We wish he wouldn't do that. Just focus on kernel development, quit cussing at people.
I think that everybody can treat their fellow humans a bit better. And just because we're sitting behind screens, that doesn't mean that there's not another human on the other side.
Yeah.
But
Although Linus was right about the code that was first submitted for some of the Spectrum meltdown being bad. He was at least right. It was not unfounded.
The Intel call out was pretty good too.
Yeah. Quit spending your time on marketing and actually fix this. That was yeah.
Now, this NPM problem has been fixed. They have a 5.7.1 release. So that's good. If you are walking into work and you're happening to listen to us, double check the versions of NPM that you're running before you decide to do an upgrade. And please, with any software, always read the release notes.
Yes. And I back everything up before I do updates, because we just updated several of our servers last week, and to full version upgrades of different stacks we use. But we snapshot every VM before we even implement all this, which actually I ran into a licensing problem with one of them that was confusing. So I'm glad I had snapshots. I rolled back so we could get work done until I sorted out the licensing issues with it. So yeah, please back everything up, get snapshots ready, get ready to roll back if the updates, especially if you don't read the release notes, may have mercy on your soul. But
Right.
And then moving on, this is something that's near and dear to my heart: gaming. Now, I've been running Ubuntu on this gaming laptop for about a year and a half now, and there's a proposal patch set made by some random person to give better performance for direct 3D games, such as World of Warcraft or anything else that I can't run on Linux natively. Now, it's about 20 to 30% increased frames per second, which is significant. I don't exactly understand the technical bits of this because this is deep into C code and graphics libraries, but it's a more efficient use of the graphics driver memory allocation. So instead of waiting for the graphics card to do its operations, it runs them independently from each other. So that's going to be interesting as soon as it gets polished up and actually released to Wine.
Something interesting directly related to gaming and Linux is the QEMU projects running some, not QEMU, but the what's the other?
There's CUDA.
It's the
But that's an
emulator. VM system. What's the one that is the base for Red Hat?
Oh,
Vert.
KVM.
Yeah, in a Vert. The
LibVert.
LibVert. What they're doing is they're coming up with some ways to do better pass through, so you can run Windows in there, but give it 100% access to the PCI bus. Therefore, you then just end up running your game inside of Windows, but it's running all emulated. So your Linux is still the base, but you pass off the graphics card through, I believe it's a LibVert project, so you have direct access to it to play the games. For the games that won't work with Wine and 3D. So I thought that's interesting. I thought about experimenting with it a little bit. I would love to get my gaming system running Linux natively, and then when need to, pop open a VM with Windows in it to run those games inside of there, because I like Windows in a VM better than Or maybe this guy from Valve's going to solve all our problems, and all the games are going to be ported to Linux, and really happily ever after.
That might happen before Half-Life 3 gets released.
That you are right.
And then for cool software, there is this thing called the Cockpit project.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Cockpit is a free and open source web-based system management application. It's maintained and developed by Red Hat. Using Cockpit, anyone can easily manage and monitor multiple servers at the same time via the web browser. It's suited for new system administrators for simple tasks such as storage administration, inspecting systemd journals, starting and stopping services. You can also see metrics inside of it. So it's very similar to, let's say, a Microsoft GUI interface. So if you're a Windows guy coming over to the light side, this could be very, very helpful for you. Now, it's not an ideal solution such as like configuration management, but you got to start somewhere, and this can help bridge the gap.
That's how I feel too. I've actually had people ask me about reviewing it, but I'm doing a review on Webmin, and I know Phil's making a face.
I do not like Webmin. Webmin is the first thing that I would rip out of old networks that I would inherit. Oh, geez.
The latest version looks a lot like Cockpit does. They've done a whole rewrite, so it's very nice, and it has all those functionality and controls. But you're right, from the way it automates things in its own way is can be problematic to edit and things like that, because it creates the code in its own, like the way it creates Apache code is interesting. You probably were most angry about that. That's probably the reason you ripped it out, was because of the way it starts creating its own Apache sites.
It originally was just a whole boatload of CGI scripts, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes. And now it looks much better. It has really cool sliding graphs, and it does the charting like this for CPU usage and things like that.
I'll have to give it another look over, because I still have a bad taste in my mouth from the past.
I think as a monitoring application, it works great. Something it actually does a really good job of, it has automation scripts to even give you browser notices and lets you consolidate all of your servers into a common interface. It lets you know what packages need to be updated. It separates them out really nice of, these are security updates, these are other updates, and you can just check a box and say automatically load any security patches as they come through. I know you can do that with the other automated tools, but it's kind of nice. It also has all the nice descriptions as you mouse over what it's updating, so it gives you a lot of insight. Where does app get updated? Like, cool, new version of Apache security release. All right, I'm loading it. But it'll actually go through and gives you a lot of that, and tells you it's a nice. I got to admit, I play with that. I'm impressed with it. I didn't know it had that new interface either, because, yeah. But it lets you start and stop services and all that other fun stuff. But this is cool too. I think this is much lighter weight. This is
I believe so too. It's not nearly as full featured as Webmin is.
But. And it's a thing. We want to get more people using it. And I think command line scares people a lot.
I believe so too. Some say that we are all still trapped inside of the original Vim process.
Yes. None of us know how to :Q out. I think that's the end of it. So you got anything, Tony? I think
that's all I had. Well, I had nothing.
Don't worry, I obsessively collect articles, and Phil collected quite a few too. So we spent an hour talking about all the happenings. It's been a while since we had a show. We actually skipped last week because nothing lined up for any of us.
Life happened.
Life happened. Linux happened. Lots of Linux happened.
Yeah.
Do we have any music for the show, Tony?
We
didn't have a show title,
in the polished version.
Yeah.
Again, This is for those of you watching on YouTube. Thank you very much.
How long are we
Actually-
into the show for?
We're not too far. An hour and 15,
Okay, we're
hour
not bad.
10,
Oh,
something like that.
yeah.
Right on.
Right
Actually,
on.
I do have one song.
Okay.
Since my birthday was yesterday,
Oh, happy
birthday.
birthday,
so
Tony.
thank you. I'm going to play one of my favorite songs, which is from Brad Sucks. And what is the song called?
I want to know so I can put it in the show, the full version.
I'll get you the link. It's
Okay.
Fixing My Brain. It's on Jamando. There we go. I've been playing from the tablet. or phone.
Rubber rooms and taking fun pills, filling up on notes and dollar bills. It's the price you pay for feeling okay. You're the strangest girl I've ever met, sending weird signals to my head. I've been thinking about fixing my brain, but I'm afraid I won't feel the same. 'Cause baby, it's all I do. I've been thinking about fixing my brain, but I'm afraid.
All right. So Tom and Phil didn't get to hear any of that because I was playing it through the mixer board.
Tony's rocking it out over here.
That's right. I'm enjoying it, and I'm like, oh wait, we should probably close up the show. Anyway, so you've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. This was episode 267.
Chamad 666. Daemons.
Daemons. Oh, we didn't even
Demons.
talk about
Oh,
your
you know-
daemons.
Oh yeah, you know what? Well, we'll leave a link in there, and it's a short thing. I did skip over because I wanted us all to discuss it. That's how that happened.
Ah.
So the Damon history. We'll just read this real quick because it's the end of the show. Do you guys got it pulled up?
Yes.
All right, all right. The coloring's awful. I'm sorry for anyone that actually clicked the link. It was not put by a designer. The concept is so. This is Professor Corbato, and this is the link we have in here. I read a trivia column for a newspaper called the Austin Chronicle. Someone had asked me the origin of the word daemon as it applies to computing. Best I could tell based on my research, the word was first used by people on your team on Project Mac using the IBM 7094 in 1963. The first daemon, abbreviation for Disk and Executive Monitor, was a program that automatically made tape backups of the file system. Does this sound about right? Any corrections, additions? And thank you for your time. And then he replies, your explanation of the origin of the word daemon is correct that my group began using the term around that time frame. However, the acronym explanation is a new one to me. Our use of the word daemon was inspired by Maxwell's daemon of physics and thermodynamics. My background is in physics. Maxwell's daemon was an imaginary agent that helped molecules of different speeds work tirelessly in the background. We fancifully began using the word daemon to describe background processes that work tirelessly to perform system chores. I found a very good explanation of this at the time, and they have a link then to how that was in this old book in physics relates to daemon. To save you the trouble, we'll cut and paste it right here. And I won't read the rest because it's kind of long, but it was based on they read a book on physics, and daemons were this theoretical thing that they just work tirelessly in the background to make molecules move, and they use it because they're the tireless services that run in the background to make things happen on a computer, which is what they are. So a weird acronym laid it over to here, then someone applied it, and yeah, I love the etymology and history of some of the words. It's kind of fun because I've never had anyone verify that the team that left AMD used to work for Intel, and that AMD stands for Air Movement Devices that used to fail on the old IBM servers and cause the server processors to fail. The fans were called Air Movement Devices. So that's what they named the company. I don't have any source for that. It was told me at a Linux conference 20 years ago, and
Interesting.
yeah, I don't know what AMD stands for. Advanced Micro Devices is official, but that's the official. How they came up with the name when they left the engineering teams over at IBM and Intel was because of the processors that failed when the air movement devices failed.
to any of our listeners that are out there. If you have your own cool technological words that you happen to know some etymology about, please email us at show@smlr.us. We'd like to hear about it.
And then Kevin will correct it because I'm sure Kevin's already typing the email as we speak on the actual source of these things because he was there.
Right.
I'm not making an old joke. Kevin's just been in the Linux community that long and has an amazing repository of information that he just shares with us all the time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're at the end of the show officially. And thanks for listening to us.
All right. So this is Tony Bemis.
Bill Parada.
Tom Lawrence.
And have a good week.
I won't feel the same. 'Cause baby, it's all I do. Spending more and more time up in bed, thinking about the things I think you said. It's been on my mind, and it's hard to find. Bad habits come and go. I'm afraid my mind is getting slow. I've been thinking about fixing my brain, but I'm afraid I won't feel the same. 'Cause baby, it's all I do. I've been thinking about fixing my brain, but I'm afraid I won't feel the same. 'Cause baby, it's all I do. I swear it's not so hard to understand. I just want to get in the sun again, the sun again, the sun again, the sun again. I swear it's not so hard to understand. I just want to get in the sun again, the sun again, the sun again, the sun again.